Today we have one of our favorite cars to work on in the shop. This 2019 GT350 was shipped to us from Texas to get lowering springs installed in preparation for this year's Colorado Shelby Rally. So these go, I think we're gonna fold that last flap back up. A lot of people want these cars lowered because it not only reduces the wheel gap, so it improves the appearance in that way, but also lowering the car lowers the center of gravity and improves its handling in the corners. So the factory manual for this car actually says that if you want to remove the coil, you have to undo all of these bolts and drop this linkage down. But a lot of these bolts are single-time use because they actually stretch a little bit when you torque them. So if you were to follow those instructions exactly, you'd have $100 to $200 in one-time use hardware from the dealership. So the way that we do it is we actually drop the subframe down one side at a time, which requires an alignment, but since we're already lowering the car, it's not a big deal. Doing it this way saves the customer labor costs and hardware costs. Anytime you're changing the coil springs on a strut, you're going to need a way to control the spring before you release the plate. So this is our new strut compressor. We used to have a little one that mounted onto the floor and it was fine for pretty much everything that we were trying to do. Then we had a guy come in with a Raptor and that strut compressor was just bending and not even moving the coil. Then we got this compressor which has all of these different adjustments and pretty much compresses any spring you can throw at it. Eibach makes a couple of different springs that you can choose for these Mustangs. They have the Pro-KIT and the Sport lines. You cannot use the Sport lines on a car with MagneRide because it's too aggressive. It lowers it down too much. So the reason we would choose these Pro-KITs is because they are compatible with every of the Mustang that has the MagneRide. And they're just really a good balance between aggressive stance, but you're not dragging your bumper on everything around town. Anytime that we're taking the knuckle off of the strut, we have to remove the two bolts that hold it in. So these camber bolts, this is made by Specialty Products Company. There's no extra labor for us to put these eccentric bolts in. With these eccentric bolts, we're able to fine tune the camber. If you don't have equal camber side to side, that's what introduces a pull in the alignment. You definitely want to minimize your cross camber, but to do that, you have to have adjustability of camber. These bolts allow us to do that. So here you can see the lobe. It sticks out on the right and it's flush with the threads on the left. As I spin this lobe, it starts to push that knuckle and tilt it out. If you can imagine the wheel being attached to the rotor here. And as I go over that high point and continue rotating this, it'll start drawing it back in. All right, so we just did the initial measurement on the alignment, and this is what we're looking at. The first thing that I notice is the total toe. For a car that's going to be on the track, we want that to be between 0 and positive 0.03, maybe 0.05. The camber right now, it's very far off, right? This camber split is about 0.7 degrees, but with those camber bolts, we're gonna be able to bring that in so that they're both even. And again, on a car that's gonna be on the track and driven aggressively, even though the specification for this car says that the center is negative 1.05, we're gonna probably aim more for about 1.5 degrees camber. One thing that is good so far is the cross camber in the back. Negative 1.8, negative 1.73, or 7.4. Our cross camber right now in the back is only about 0.05 degrees, which is excellent, especially because we don't have easy camber adjustment on these cars from the factory. All right, this bolt is much like the camber bolts that we installed in the front aftermarket. It's eccentric, so it's not centered on this plate. So as I roll that around, this toe link actually pulls in and that controls where the back wheel is pointed. So this is how we adjust the toe angle. So as I roll that around, it's pulling it in. And I can turn it back the other way and it points the tire back out. So this is how we adjust the toe of the rear tires. And so we're gonna try to set this. We're gonna set it as close as we can get it. 0.1 degrees, right there. Once we get the toe where we want it, we're gonna torque that bolt down. In this case, the bolt torques to 129 foot-pounds. All right. All right, now we're gonna jump to the front. All right, once the camber is set, the last thing to do is to set this toe angle. So you gotta loosen this 24mm nut. And then with the steering wheel held straight up top, we're gonna adjust this. Remember, this car is gonna be driven aggressively on the track. So that means 1 to 2, maybe 3. So let's just set it right there. And that should drive awesome. Once that's set, we're gonna hold that tight from rotating. And then gonna tighten this lock nut. Now it's ready for a road test. The road test is going great. The alignment feels rock solid. We have another customer with a 2019 GT350. It's also Ford Performance Blue. It's still at stock height, so we thought it would be an awesome opportunity for us to show the difference between the Eibach PRO-KIT and stock suspension. This customer brought his GT350 to us 3 years ago to get Hellion twin turbos installed. So it does add a little bit of weight to the front. So I would say the front of the car maybe sits a little bit lower than stock height, but for the most part, you can get a feel for where the car sits at stock height. This is what a GT350 looks like lowered on Eibach PRO-KIT suspension. We're dealers for Eibach. We've installed a ton of Sportline and PRO-KIT suspension kits. Every time we've installed these Eibach springs, the customer has been thrilled with the ride height and the performance. We are dealers for Eibach, so if you're interested in suspension for your car, definitely reach out to us. We'll help you find a good fit for your car.